USA led by Big John Andersen, and boy, Jamie, you're right. He's put on some beef.
Yeah, it looks like it's quality muscle too. Really big shoulders there, big deltoids.
John Andersen is a strongman who created a program called Deep Water. And this is not just another basic strength or hypertrophy program, even though you're supposed to gain both size and strength while doing this. This program is designed to be hard, kind of for the sake of being hard. The goal of this program is to push your limits, both mental and physical, for self-improvement and to find your potential. It is not just a workout program, it is a system for personal development through challenging physical exercise and a positive mindset. And all this seemed quite fascinating to me. I was 69 kg struggling to gain weight. In fact, I even lost some weight recently and was not sure what I was doing. And this seemed like a good way to break through that slump. Except there is a problem. See, one of the aspects of this program that make it so difficult is its focus on heavy compound movements such as squats, deadlifts, power cleans, push press, and I can't do any of that. I don't have access to a gym. I train in a very limited space with a very limited amount of equipments. A few plates, a pair of gymnastic rings and a parallettes are basically all I have. I don't even have a barbell. So I can't possibly run this program. Or can I? See, what I really liked about this program was its approach and philosophy. So why couldn't I take that? Take the structure, the sets and reps, the progression scheme, and then just swap out the exercises with the ones that I can do. Of course, it's not going to be nearly as effective because there is no way to replicate a heavy barbell squat or a power clean with anything calisthenics or at-home alternative, but it will still be something. Just because something is not at its supposed best doesn't necessarily mean that it is completely useless, and it couldn't have been worse than what I was already doing, so why not give it a shot? And that's what I did. From 26 January to 6 July, I spent just a little over 5 months to run all 3 stages of this program, from beginner to intermediate to advanced, and in this video I will showcase how I made this program accessible for me by swapping out the exercises, give a brief description of how all the 3 stages went, and finally wrap it up with a comparison of my before and after. This is Deep Water done in a calisthenics style. The basic structure of the program is the same for all 3 stages. There are 4 days of intense resistance training, 1 day of active rest and 2 days of complete rest. Each stage is 6 weeks, adding up to 18 total weeks. I will share the link to the program in the description. John has made the PDF of the program available for free, so if you want to check it out, you could with that link. The main movements of the program are listed in the PDF, so let's go through them one by one and see what exercises I swapped each of them with. The squat became CC squat. I wanted to do a bilateral movement, so no single leg squat here. For the deadlift, since there is no real alternative to deadlift in calisthenics, I chose a hamstring exercise because CC squat is already taking care of the quads, and I chose an easier variation of the Nordic curl. This looks like a back extension, but in back extension you are hinging at the hips, and here you're hinging at the knee, which is putting more pressure on the hamstrings. This can be visualized by the regular Nordic curl rotated clockwise slightly to make it easier. Both strict press and push press was swapped with pike push-up or elevated pike push-up depending on the intensity. Power clean was swapped with front lever raise or pull-ups depending on the stage. Bench press was swapped with weighted ring dips. Incline press was changed to weighted decline push-ups on parallettes for full range of motion, and finally narrow grip bench press was swapped with bodyweight triceps extension. There are some other exercises that are present in the program but not mentioned in this list, such as bent over row, which was swapped with inverted row, and barbell curl, which was changed to one-arm preacher curl with a bag. There were also sit-ups mentioned in the program, which I skipped because of time constraints. The 4 days of the program are made up of a leg day, a clean or a pulling focus day, a push press or a vertical pushing day, and a bench press or a horizontal pushing day, in that particular order. I kept the content of the days the same, however I changed the order to suit my schedule better. I did horizontal push for day 1, legs for day 2, pulling for day 3, and vertical pushing for day 4. With these changes, I was ready to get started with the beginner stage of the program. The main training scheme of the beginner stage is 10 sets of 10. I will mostly focus on the leg and the vertical pushing days because only these were the 10 sets of 10 days. The leg day would alternate between starting with the nautical variation for 3 sets of 10, followed by CC squats for 10 sets of 10, and in the next week starting with CC squat for 3 sets of 10 and then followed by the hamstring exercise for 10 sets of 10. As mentioned earlier in the video, I am not going to pretend that CC squat is in any way equivalent to a barbell squat. Yet finishing the leg sessions were extremely challenging. I had never done 10 sets of 10 for anything, let alone any leg movement. The soreness that I got from it made it very difficult to walk or climb stairs till Saturday. The leg session was on Tuesday and I had bits of soreness even in the following training session. The intense soreness would be a recurring thing throughout the entire program, though it got more manageable as the program went on. Pike push-up was the other exercise which I did 10 sets of 10s for, and I was not even able to complete all of them with straight sets. So I had to utilize rest pause method to complete the later sets marked as RP in my logbook. I would make sure not to take any more than 10 seconds for each rest pause, and it is a technique that I extensively used throughout the entirety of this program. The way you'd progress in this beginner stage is not by doing more reps or increasing the resistance, but by decreasing the rest times throughout the weeks. For the first 2 weeks, you take 4 minutes of rest between each set during the 10 sets of 10 training. In the next 2 weeks, you take 3 minutes, and in the final 2 weeks, you take only 2 minutes of rest between each set. What I found surprising is how well this progression seemed to work. There was an obvious, noticeable increase in my work capacity to an extent where the final 2 weeks with 2 minutes of rest in between was almost comparable to the performance of the first 2 weeks with 4 minutes of rest. The other 2 days, the pull and the horizontal pushing days, were done in a pretty regular style of training, no 10 sets of 10. It was slightly higher volume than what I was used to, but nothing too important to speak about, so I will just show those days on the screen and not waste any time talking about them. I started this stage on 26 January and ended on 8 March. My weight went from 69 kg or 152 pounds to 72.1 kg or 159 pounds. That brings us to the intermediate stage. Unlike the beginner stage where you had to do 100 reps in 10 sets of 10, the goal of this stage is to do 100 reps in less than 10 sets, starting with 9 and then 8 as the weeks go on. Well, the actual training scheme is, for the first 2 weeks, you will do 70% of your 1 rep max for 100 reps in 9 sets or less with 4 minutes of rest in between. For the third and the fourth week, everything stays the same except you increase the intensity to 80% of your 1 rep max. And for the last 2 weeks, you will try to do 80% of your 1 rep max for 100 reps within 8 sets or less, with as much time as you want for resting. Since I'm doing bodyweight movements, there is no real way to know exactly what 70 or 80% of my 1 rep max are, so I took a little different approach. What I would do is decrease the rest time between sets as the weeks go on, just like the previous stage, starting with 4 minutes, then 3, and then finally 2. I would also increase the intensity by putting some weights in a backpack for CC squats. With these modifications, as I did the program, this became the hardest thing that I had ever done physically to date. It doesn't seem to be that much harder than regular 10 sets of 10, but just by decreasing 1 or 2 sets, this became immensely challenging. I would get nervous before every session, and as I would finish it, the sense of accomplishment was huge. Another thing that was different in this stage is that unlike the previous stage where only 2 days had the 10 sets of 10, legs and vertical pushing, this stage also added pull-ups to it. I mean, technically it was power cleans in the program, but I did assisted pull-ups instead. My favorite accomplishment from this stage has to be the last leg session where I did 100 reps of CC squats in 8 sets with 7.5 kg or 16.5 pounds added with only 2 minutes of rest in between. Considering I started this program by barely being able to do 10 sets of 10 with 4 minutes of rest in between, I think this is a pretty decent progress. Needless to say, the intermediate stage really was the part where the program peaked for me. I started this stage on 11th March at 72 kg or 152 pounds and ended on 18th April at 74 kg or 163 pounds. And now it's time for the climax, the final stage, the deep water advanced program. This is the part which has the dreaded deep water sets. So this is supposed to be even harder and better than the intermediate stage, which I called the peak of the program, right? Well, not really. Spoilers alert, this did not go well at all. Firstly, there were some external reasons. Like you can see in my logs that there is exactly 1 month gap between when I ended the intermediate stage and when I started the advanced stage. Well, my mother got really sick and had to be hospitalized, and then I got sick, though it was quite minor. But all this together made a sizable gap in my training. I lost the weight that I gained in the previous stage and I was back down to 72 kg again, and the flow was somewhat lost. But these outside influences aside, the deep water sets themselves aren't very compatible with calisthenics. Let me explain why. So the deep water sets starts with 5 sets of 5, then you drop the intensity and you go to failure. Then you drop the intensity one more time and go to failure again. So the last 2 sets where you're going to failure are supposed to be the hardest ones in the entire program. Like this is the main thing that the entire program is leading up to. Now, what's the issue with that? Well, you're not supposed to do these sets with all the exercises. In fact, if you read the program, you will see that there is only a certain handful number of exercises which you're supposed to perform these sets with, like deadlift, squat, push press, power cleans, and so on. And all of them have something in common. They are done while standing on your feet while you're holding the bar. The advantage of standing on your feet for sets like this is that you can rest between reps while still holding onto the bar, breathing, and keep going. You're not supposed to do the entire set non-stop, and the intensity being quite low, as mentioned in the program, 65 and 50% of your 1 rep max, the challenge becomes more psychological and cardiovascular rather than pure strength. It ultimately comes down to how much pain you can tolerate. But when I'm doing calisthenics, other than sissy squats, I am never on my feet. Take pull-ups for example. Hanging rest between the reps is not same as standing on your feet with a barbell on your back. When you're hanging, your grip, your biceps, and to an extent your lats are still quite active. And soon enough, strength becomes the bottleneck. This would be the same even for free weight exercises where you're not standing on your feet. You probably have heard of the super squat program and the breathing squat technique, but not a breathing bench press technique. All this to say is that those deep water failure sets were not nearly as effective for the calisthenics exercises that I did. And 5 sets of 5 was something that I was already quite familiar with, so it was nothing novel. By the way guys, I am totally open to the possibility that I can be entirely wrong about this thing. Maybe I approached it in a wrong way and it could have been done better. But in any case, this was quite disappointing, especially considering how well the previous intermediate stage went. I started this stage on 19th May at 72 kg or 158 pounds and ended on 5th July at 74 kg or 163 pounds. This is where the program finally ends. Alright, so let's quickly go over the before and after comparisons. I started this program at 69 kg or 152 pounds and ended on 74 kg or 163 pounds. I gained 1.5 inches on my chest, 0.8 inches on my arms, just below an inch on my forearms, and 1 inch on both of my legs. I also gained 0.8 inches on my waist, which indicates the fat gain. By the way, all these measurements, the photos and the clip of me flexing were taken at the same condition, right after waking up, no food and drinks, and of course no pump. In terms of strength, in the beginning my max weighted pull-up was 40 kg or 90 pounds, and at the end it was 45 kg or 100 pounds, though it was not as clean as I would like to be. My max weighted dip was 45 kg for 2 reps, and at the end it was 45 kg for 3 reps. Barely any improvement there. Vertical pushing on the other hand saw great improvements. I started the program with a 1 rep max of 12.5 kg or 27.5 pounds for my elevated pike push-up and ended it with 15 kg or 33 pounds for 4 reps. My max wall assisted handstand push-up went from 5 reps to 7 reps without doing them even once throughout the entire program. I actually made a whole video about this a while ago, so if you want you can check that out. In terms of my legs, I went from an easy variation of the Nordic curl to approaching the full Nordic curl eccentric, though I'm not quite there yet. And I already showed my progress in the CC squat in the intermediate section. And with that, the video is finally done. It took me way longer than I thought it would. You can probably see it in my hair, how it's different from when the video started. In any case, if you like these sort of videos, I have plans to do the same thing with other well-known free weight training programs. So if you would want to see those, you could subscribe. This is the first time I did something like this, so maybe it was not perfect, but hopefully as time goes on, I get better at doing these sort of things. If you have watched it this far, then consider leaving a like and a comment so that it hopefully helps out with the engagement and the algorithm. And I'm gonna go take 2 more months editing this video now. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day ahead. Bye.